Oh, hey folks, how you doing? Paul here with you. How you doing? It is a Tuesday. It's either an early afternoon or a late morning. It's right around midday. And I decided to come on and really try to get my subscribers together and help one of my subscribers, because there's nothing worse than having a devotee that worships you as a god to keep doubting you and keep fighting. Now, the rest of us, the other 12 people, when I say something, you just believe it. And that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what makes you a smart person. Because I wind up being a god to you, and the least you could do is to show the respect and to believe what I tell you. That's what this channel is all about. And we have one subscriber who wouldn't miss a show. And he's been here since the very beginning. And he's the first one to come on and watch my content. I mean, he draws pictures of me and all this other kind of stuff. I don't blame him, because that's what you do when you worship someone or something like a god. So I don't blame him. The problem that I have with him is that he wants to argue over stuff all the time with me. So I was talking about Lionel Richie yesterday. His comments that big stars should, especially musicians and stuff, they should be a little nicer to their fans. And I had, made mention that I understood that. But at the same time, you got most people that carry under a 70 IQ. So what are you going to do if you have a 69 IQ? What are you supposed to do? You can't do anything. How are you going to approach a musician? Something like that. That's about most of you. That they don't understand the Dracozoid Pokemon 160,000 offensive points. They don't understand all of that. So I'm asking all of my subscribers who are very good, and they're smart people, and they have confidence in me as their god. And I give them a lot of credit for that. So let's try to work this out with Rudy, because Rudy, he's having doubts about me. On this thing with Lionel Richie, Lionel Richie was the front man for a group called the Commodores back in the mid to late 70s. And they had a string of hits, and they were very, very powerful band, and made plenty of money, and et cetera, et cetera. And Lionel Richie was the front man singer, well known. To this day, I have never seen them, at least not to any degree, put together a touring package and tour. Maybe they did for a brief time, but it was after like 25 years. Or 30 years, when they can barely croak. Forget about singing. So I never respected Lionel Richie for that. Phil Collins was similar. He was the lead singer for Genesis, the group Genesis. They were revolutionary. They had some amazing songs. They were off the wall, kind of really artsy fartsy. If you had somebody in college, they probably knew about them. But about Genesis. But Phil Collins, I'm not sure about it, but I think he retoured with them. If he didn't, I think he helped them. And maybe Lionel Richie helped his bandmates too, so I shouldn't, from the Commodores. I don't know, all right? But the Commodores had a real hard time getting back their groove. Now, what happened was I started going into it on my video, and I said, yes, I understand that you need to have a little bit more one-on-one with your fans, but at the same time, I put down that, some of these fans are not good. They'll try to kill you. And they do it all the time. They have to get restraining orders against these people. We just had a situation there with somebody that was trying to fire a gun into a singer's house. I forgot the name of that girl, but she's very well known. So this is the problem with dealing with the the not too closely examined masses, unwashed masses. That's the problem. So he shot me a comment that said, I think it was much to do about nothing. And then I did a video in response to that, or I answered him and I said, I agree, because, after all, you've got people that aren't normal, and then they wind up making problems for the celebrity, and then he shot me back a letter, and he said, well, look what happened to Borg. And Borg is B-O-R-J-K, Borg, whatever her name was. And like around 1993, 1994, she was pretty popular. She did a song called Human Behavior. And I knew she wasn't American. I knew she was Icelandic or something like that. And that turned out to be just what she was. She was Icelandic, but she did live in England for a while. Now, we had a guy here, and as a God, you have to understand that I just don't understand problems. I transcend the problems. I transcend them. So, I didn't bring this up, but there was a guy who stalked Borg. That was a woman that sang Human Behavior. It was a crazy song. She had her following, but she wasn't extremely well known. She was well known, though, for sure. And it was difficult for her because I'm not telling you that I knew the guy. I never said that. I said that I knew of him. And I didn't mention that to my subscriber, and I'd like my other 12 subscribers to start telling him to just believe what I say. Don't try to add anything to it unless you're in agreement with me, because you're just going to lose. That's the way it works. So, no, he had to go ahead and make a comment saying, well, I told him. I didn't tell him. I did a video on it, I think. Or in the comments to him yesterday or the day before, that, people get injured and celebrities, take harm and all this. And then, we batted it back and forth. And he said, well, look at that. The guy that tried to off Borg, the woman singer there from 1993. And I commented on it, and I said, yes, I know of him, and I know what his gig was. I said, I might have done a little bit on it. I didn't do the whole thing, but I told him that I knew all about it. Intimately, or almost intimately. To him, he shot back, as, when you, what's that called, when you don't respond with the flock, blasphemy on me. And he said, I think you're confused. That's his comment. I think you're confused because the guy was from someplace like Lithuania or something like that. I forget the name of the country. But he was from far away in those, somewhere out there in far east Transylvania, something like that. Somewhere out there, Estonia, whatever the hell it was. So, he doubted me. Now, the rest of you know that you don't doubt me. You just believe what I tell you because I'm a God. And I virtually never say anything unless I know that I can back up what I'm saying to a great degree. And I had to make a video. I didn't do it yet. This is the video. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the stalker of Bjork. B-J-O-R-K, whatever it was. The music, just look her up. And that guy was a pest control man. But unfortunately, I never met the man. But I did meet the family. I talked to the mom. I cut the yard at that place, and I couldn't figure out what year it was. I said 94 or 95. It turned out to be 96, or very close to it. 1996 it was, because he killed himself. He wound up committing suicide by shooting himself in the head, which I saw. I didn't see the whole thing, but we had Channel 7 down here at that time, and Channel 7's idea was, their motto was, if it bleeds, it leads. And they were well known as the National Enquirer of all the news here in Miami. And, I think at that time, the head of the station, or no, not the head of the station, the woman there, the news anchor, I forgot what her name was now, skinny little Cuban girl, she was having an affair with the program director. That was well known. And it was all part of the radio politics back in the 80s. So Channel 7 was a little bit out there, but usually they got it right. They just gave you the blood and guts. So I remember turning on the TV, and I saw a guy, and it looks very much like the picture that's put up if you look at him on Google. But at that point, he had become very unhealthy, and his mom indicated that he was staying in his side of the house, which was an apartment. It was like a garage arrangement, and he had a bathroom, one of those, it's like a mother-daughter or whatever you call it, like that. And I knocked at that door, and the mom kind of came out and said, please don't knock on that door, because that's my son and he doesn't like to be disturbed. And then she went into it, and she said that he wasn't coming out, he refused to come out, and he wouldn't come out to eat. They would bring him food, and he would eat, but he never came out. And he had some real psychological problems, real bad ones. And I talked to the mom. The mom was very nice to me and just told me don't knock on his door anymore because he doesn't like it. So I guess that must have been in 96, because in September he killed himself, and he videotaped it. He had a whole videotape thing explaining all of his motives when it came to that woman. And basically the reason he killed himself is because he could not establish the kind of relationship that he wanted with this Borg. And he was very upset by it. It was causing him a great deal of discomfort. And what threw him over the edge was that the woman, briefly, it says in the paper, briefly, she had an affair with a black music producer, I believe is what it said. I didn't know all about that. I just knew it was a black guy because they showed him on that cut of the news cut where the guy had his gun in his head. They didn't show him doing it, but I was bright enough to catch on. And that was completely unacceptable to him, and that pushed him over the edge, according to what I heard. And he mailed her a package that was going to detonate, and he sent it to England. And it just so happens that when they found this note after he killed himself, the authorities here in Hollywood, Florida, that was right in Hollywood, Florida, and I know where it is. I think it's officially called Hollywood Hills. I believe that was in Hollywood Hills, and it's a small, well-to-do area, and you don't find anything but single-family homes there. There's no apartments. No, I don't know of any. It's all, I know the area. And the cops here sent the message to Scotland Yard, which is the police force of London, and they were told about the package, and they found the package in holding at a postal area. And I forgot what was in there, but it was something that would have made a lot of problems. But it's not important. But he did do that, and then he committed suicide by shooting himself in the head, all while explaining how he didn't particularly want sex, according to what I heard. He didn't want a sexual relationship, but he wanted something. That's according to what I read. I'm not so sure about that, but it's possible because the guy was all fucked up. Like I told you, I never met him, but I know the mother was telling me the truth. And I did not mention it. My subscriber was the one that mentioned it. He said, this guy. And I told him, I said, yeah, we knew him. I knew him. I didn't know him, but I know that it was right here. And he said, oh, I think that you're mistaken, because he was from Gardenia or wherever it was, some Armenia or whatever it was. And had he read the story a little deeper, he would have found out that he was from Hollywood Hills, Florida. And he worked as a pest control person for a while. But then, like I told you, he must have been very, very ill, because he looked chubby. When I saw him in that video, he didn't look good. He didn't look good at all. He was pretty chubby, and it looked like he was haggard. And that's it. So if you can, let Rudy know that just believe what I tell you. The generals did this too. If you ever saw Full Metal Jacket, you'll remember one part of it where Joker is the character Joker, one of the recruits there that went to Vietnam. He was wearing 2 pins, and one said "Born to Kill," and then the other one said "Peace," and they were right next to each other. So this general came over, and there was an older general, probably from the World War II era, and he said, and don't forget that was in '68, I think. But he came over and he said, what is that you have on your lapel or whatever it was? And he says, what do you mean, sir? And he said, you put a peace sign and then put "Born to Kill"? What is that, some kind of joke? And he explained it, that it was the duality of man. Every person has a good part of their body, and every person has bad thoughts in their mind or body. And, he questioned him, and he said, look, whose side are you on? He said, our side, sir. And he said, look, why don't you get into the program and jump on for the big win? All I've ever asked from my recruits, from my men, is to obey my orders like they would God. That's where I get that from. I'm not particularly hard, folks, to deal with here in figuring me out. I take things that are remarkable from movies and stuff and such, and I just apply them to my life as I see fit. So let's try to help Rudy along, and I hope he understands this, because, he wouldn't miss a show. He's already done like 3 interesting artworks or projects on me, and it kind of does look like me. Maybe not something I'd like to go out and show anyone, but certainly it's a compliment nonetheless. Okay? So anyways, folks, take care. I will be back with the news later, and I'm almost dead broke, and I advise you all to be almost dead broke too. We got up this morning to $4.29 a gallon for gasoline, and I couldn't believe it, because last night it was $3.85, and now everything has just shot up, and now is the day. And I have a wife in a foreign country and a son, and I have to make sure that they're okay. And I must have spent $5,000, $6,000 in the last month. And if you think I'm kidding, I am not. Because we had to buy everything before it went up. And now it may be too late, because the gas just exploded. So if things are still the old price, I suggest strongly to you, raise some cash and buy it, because everything is going crazy. I just saw Heinz ketchup. Now, I know it's a big bottle, but it was $6 or $7.99. I think it was $7.99. It's fucking ridiculous. So, take it from there. Anyways, take care, folks. I will talk to you later during the news. Rudy, thank you for being here, but please just accept what I tell you as the Word of God. Okay? Thank you. Bye.